His own app startup. Here to tell us about the 5 mistakes we'll make in college is Charlie Hoehn.
Get situated. Alright. So, a lot of you are about to go to college, and you're probably wondering, is this going to be worth the time and the money spent? And your parents are wondering, is this going to make my kid happy and successful? And is it ultimately going to lead to them leaving the house? And basically, I'm here to help you prevent some major mistakes, because college is a long 4 years, and it's a costly 4 years, and I see graduates over and over making these same mistakes, and if you can avoid them, you can get the most out of your experience. I can already tell this quicker is going to be a nightmare. I don't know. Is it? You want to run it? You want to run this show? Or is it working?
It's working. You put it on.
Alright. Cool. Okay, so the 4 mistakes you will make in college. Mistake number 1 is the evidence that you leave behind, the paper trail. If you ask somebody for proof that they went to college, they're going to point to one of 2 things. They're going to point you to their degree or their Facebook page. Both of these things in the real world are equally useless. So the degree, unless you have hard skills like a programmer, an engineer, or a nurse, the degree, especially degrees like mine that was a soft skill, marketing, they're pretty useless. No one asked for them. And in fact, in April of this year, just a couple months ago, for the first time ever, people with college degrees, there were more of them who were jobless than people who didn't have college degrees. There were 4.7 million people who graduated with a degree from college, 4.3 million people who had high school or less who were unemployed. And Facebook, equally useless, because we use Facebook to stay in touch with friends and to try and impress people that we don't really know that well. And it's not a great place to show what a multi-dimensional person you are, what your interests are, what you care about, that you actually have a soul and that you have skills and talents. So what I would suggest strongly for all of you is that instead, you have yourname.com, a blog or a portfolio that people can look to. Because you are going to be Googled as soon as you get out of college, I can assure you. But the thing is that speaking from first-hand experience, myself and a bunch of my friends who have all gotten really cool opportunities and really cool jobs and rarely have trouble finding work, we can attribute directly to having a blog and sharing our experiences and our thoughts with the world. So I want to give you one example of a blog where it became a magnet for opportunities. This guy no longer really has to shotgun his resume out to people in order to get in front of them. Opportunities come to him. This is my buddy Jeff Waldman. And a few years ago, Jeff decided, I want to hang up a swing in Golden Gate Park, just for fun. This was the swing that he put up, just for himself. And he swung on it for a while, then he got off, and a bunch of people wanted to get on the swing as well. And he noticed all the spontaneous joy and happiness that he created in these people, and he was inspired to do more swings. So he went around and he sort of made it into his own little project. He started hanging up more and more swings, getting more creative with where he would hang them up. And each time he would come back and he would share his experiences and what he was doing, and people really liked it and they really responded to it. Now, Jeff had the idea that he would want to hang up swings in Bolivia. Bolivia is a place where children don't really grow up with much of a childhood. And so he thought it would be cool to hang up some swings down there. So he started a Kickstarter campaign, and he ended up raising $11,000 in a few days, simply because he put himself out there and he made the project appealing to other people, and people responded and they supported it. Now, Jeff went down to Bolivia on other people's dime, which was fun, hung up swings down there and documented the whole process, rinse and repeat. He shared what he did, wrote about it, and it was just a really cool experience. Rewind 2 weeks ago. This is Jeff hanging up a swing in Buenos Aires. And why was he in Buenos Aires? Well, Coca-Cola approached Jeff and they said, we're going to make a commercial about random acts of kindness in Latin America. Would you like to be featured? And Jeff said, yeah, sure. And so he went down to Argentina, and it was this huge production. He had an Academy Award-winning director filming this commercial, and there were, I mean, it was insane. There were over 80 people on staff, over 200 extras for this commercial, this $1.6 million commercial that Jeff was a part of. And it all started because of that one swing and because Jeff shared what he was doing with the world. Now, think about it. If Jeff had done this 10, 15 years ago, he wouldn't have been able to get the momentum that he got going. He wouldn't have been able to do all that stuff. Because back then, they didn't have platforms and tools to share your passions with the world. Jeff was able to do all this stuff because he put it out there. And you guys can do the same. So don't let Facebook or your degree define your college experience. Put yourself online and show who you are. Reveal who you are. It will open a lot of doors, I promise you. Mistake number 2 is being a student. And you're probably thinking, I am a student. And it is a mistake, actually. So the mistake is this. You can either be a student, or you can wait for my slide to advance. There we go. You can either be a student, or you can be a seeker. And the difference between these two is pretty simple. A student is effectively a prisoner. They're just doing their time. They're being told what to do. They're seeking the approval every time they do something, because ultimately they just want to get that piece of paper. They want to get out. They want to escape. A seeker doesn't need anybody's permission to learn anything. They just do it because they care about it. They love it. And the difficult part about going to college and being in school in general is that the way that school is set up is it puts a clamp on your curiosity at every step. Your entire life, you've been told what you can and cannot learn. And when I got to college, I was really into film. I really wanted to take this video editing course, but it had nothing to do with my major. And when I asked about it, my counselor was like, there's nothing we can do, you know, it doesn't apply to your major, plus the class is already full, so we couldn't get you in anyways. I still went to the class. I didn't take the test, but I still went, and you guys can do the same. And it doesn't just apply to, obviously, lectures and stuff. I mean, we are all naturally born seekers. We're all curious individuals because we're human. And you have more resources available to you than any generation that's ever walked on the planet. You have Google, Apple, Amazon, and Wikipedia. We have amassed man's knowledge and wisdom and art in one place that all of us can access instantaneously at any time, anyone in the world. It's amazing. You literally have God in your pocket. It's crazy and it's awesome. And you can create your own education so easily with all of these, just by being curious. And the education that you can create for yourself, I guarantee you, will be better than any school that you go to. Even if you go to Harvard, Oxford, whatever. But you have to be curious. Your job in college is to protect and retain your curiosity and your love for learning. And to not care about other people's approval or other people's permission about what you can and cannot learn. Because this is your life. And if you go through college and you graduate and you're still a student, you have failed college. Mistake number 3 is the lifestyle, falling in love with the college lifestyle. So, my roommate had a buddy in college named Drew. Drew was particularly good at programming. He was in a C++ programming course, and programming, as you guys know, does not come naturally to the average person. People in this room are pretty good at it, obviously, but it doesn't come naturally to the average person, but Drew was really good at it. So, but he never went to class because he was always partying and drinking, and as we do in Colorado. So, anyway, so the night before the final, Drew's like, I'm gonna go to a concert, and if you guys want to come join me, and his friends are like, dude, the final was like at 8 a.m., we're gonna study. And so Drew goes out. The next morning, my roommate's just banging on the door for minutes to get Drew to come to this final. And Drew finally comes to the door, and he opens the door, and it just looks like death, you know, because he's still hammered. He was just getting wasted all night. But he shows up to the final, about 15, 20 minutes late, and he sits down, he starts the final, and everybody can kind of just hear what's coming. Like, he's holding in burps, he's groaning, and then a few seconds later, just blah, throws up all over the place while he's taking his final, and everyone's running away from him. And the teacher runs up to him, and it's like, oh my God, are you okay? And he's like, food poisoning. And he just runs out of the class and excuses himself. And so everyone resumes the final amidst this pool of vomit, and Drew comes back like 20 minutes later and crushes the final, outperforms everyone in the class. And you fast forward a few years after Drew graduated, and where is he now? He's a bartender, and he's been bartending ever since he left college. Now, that's not a judgment against him. If he didn't want to go into programming, that's fine, even though like he could get a high-paying job pretty easily. But the point is that college is a super fun time to just be dumb and make mistakes and mess up and party and just be young. But it's also a time to grow up and start practicing discipline that's going to serve you for the rest of your life. Because the habits that you start practicing now are going to carry you over to the future. And the decisions you start making now are going to carry over to the future as well. And you are in the real world as soon as you decide to be. College is a fantasy. And don't fall in love with the lifestyle because it will come to an end, or it should. So, mistake number 4, I'm gonna live forever. So, when I was first starting my sophomore year in college, I was 19 years old, and I was in my apartment, and I was sitting on the floor of my apartment, and I was putting together my desk, and I was in the middle of this mundane task, and I just had this quiet thought come into my head of, you are going to die. Like, I don't know why I thought it. It just popped in my head. I wasn't depressed or anything. It just came into my head, and then it got a little louder. And after a few seconds, it was echoing to my head. I could not get it out of my head. I couldn't stop thinking about it. And initially, it really kind of shook me up. I was like, oh my gosh, like, this is something I've known my whole life. But for the first time, it actually sunk in. And it was something that I understood. I finally understood my own mortality. And eventually, I gained a sense of humor about it. Or I regained a sense of humor about it. But the reality is that We all share the same fate. Everyone in this room is going to die. And it could be 60 years from now, it could be tonight. Knock on wood that it is not tonight, but we only have a limited time here. And we spend so much of it following other people's rules and their agendas. And it shouldn't be that way. It doesn't have to be that way. Because while we all are going to die, we also have one other thing in common, and that is the fact that we are alive. We are all beating hearts, experiencing consciousness simultaneously on a floating rock in the middle of outer space. And it's crazy, it's amazing, it's beautiful, and it's magic. And I think the only option is to work on stuff that you actually care about. Because while that doesn't guarantee you success, it does guarantee that you will feel alive. So I want to leave you guys with a quick clip from Alan Watts. And this was animated by two of my favorite artists on the planet, Trey Parker and Matt Stone. So this is the end of my talk. Enjoy the clip.
In music, one doesn't make the end of a composition the point of the composition. If that were so, the best conductors would be those who played fastest. And there would be composers who wrote only finales. People go to a concert just to hear one crashing chord, because that's the end. But we don't see that as something brought by our education into our everyday conduct. We've got a system of schooling which gives a completely different impression. It's all graded. And what we do is we put the child into the corridor of this grade system with a kind of, come on, kitty, kitty, kitty. And yeah, you're going to kindergarten, you know. And that's a great thing, because when you finish that, you'll get into first grade. And then, come on, first grade leads to second grade, and so on. And then you get out of grade school, you've got high school, and it's revving up, the thing is coming. Then you're going to go to college, and by Jove, then you get into graduate school. And when you're through with graduate school, you go out to join the world. And then you get into some racket where you're selling insurance. And they've got that quota to make. And you're going to make that. And all the time, this thing is coming. It's coming. It's coming. That great thing, the success you're working for. Then when you wake up one day about 40 years old, you say, my God, I've arrived. I'm there. And you don't feel very different from what you always felt. And there's a slight letdown because you feel there's a hoax. And there was a hoax. A dreadful hoax. They made you miss everything. We thought of life by analogy with a journey, with a pilgrimage, which had a serious purpose at the end, and the thing was to get to that end, success or whatever it is, or maybe heaven after you're dead. But we missed the point the whole way along. It was a musical thing, and you were supposed to sing or to dance while the music was being played.